Welcome to TigerDev. Darryl, I got the slides pulled up, but I couldn't find the videos you were talking about.
You're muted, Darryl.
Sorry, I included the links to both those videos in the email in the text. Do you see?
Yes, I do have those pulled up.
They probably won't play very good. We can try. Maybe we'll try one of them. We'll see how time goes. Maybe one of them, short one. Yeah.
As usual, we'll give people a couple minutes to get into the Zoom room. But while we're waiting, we do have a couple announcements. First of which is that the project page on the website is now mostly up to date with the information that we have now. And here is a link. But if you have worked on a project in the past and it is not on here, or it's completely missing information, or you've got pictures and stuff to put on there, please let us know. Like message me or Harper or Gene, and we will get all that content on there. As well as that, there's also team contributors. So if you know the who's worked on a team with you in the past, that would be very helpful to know, because we want to try and credit as many people as we can on these projects that they worked on. Along with that, we've also got multiple game jams coming up, which is very nice. And I'm sorry I didn't let you know about one of these sooner, but we do have the wellness jam, which I've let you guys know about. That will be coming up next week on Wednesday. Not actually Wednesday. It's the Tuesday, actually. It starts at 6 and then it ends on the Wednesday at midnight, giving you that full 30 hours of development time. Along with that, this one does have prizes, standard $20 gift card for whatever you want, as well as you can also choose to take a club t-shirt. Along with that, there is the one I announced in the email. Hopefully you guys saw that. There's a college game jam coming up, which shout out to Christian for showing me this, because I didn't know about it at all. But this is a nationwide game jam going on next month, and it's really big and really cool because it lasts for a whole week, and they've got multiple workshops going on the entire time, as well as different like speakers, and then they've also got professional game developers as the judges on that jam. So that's a really good way to get solid feedback. It's also a good way to get your just name out there for game development in general. And then lastly, we've got our very own Southern Game Jam, hosted by Harper. We've got a couple different colleges on board already. We might be able to get a little bit more over the summer, but that will be, I forgot the date for that one. It's in the summer. Is it April?
I forgot it as well. Should be on our calendar though.
Yep, definitely on our calendar. The College Game Jam, that one starts at the end of March 29th. I will make note that it is not in our standard time zone. It's in Pacific time, I believe. It starts at 1 p.m. So that's one thing to look out for. But those are the 3 jams we've got coming up. If you're interested, I highly recommend go hitting the join jam button on those itch pages. And I think I might be participating in like 1 or 2 of those, at least one. So looking forward to seeing some cool games pretty soon. With that, I think I'll let Darryl take it away.
You going to share?
Yep.
So while you're pulling that up, I want to thank you and your team for letting me join in last week. I was really impressed with all the team members and the work that you're doing. And then this week for your time today, I'm going to try to keep it to 15 minutes. I've got about 7 slides here, and the first 5 are really about Torch Technologies, and then the last 2 are really focused on the kinds of work that we do that is very relevant to what you guys do. And I'm going to go through the Torch slides pretty quick because I want to get to the stuff that I think you're the most interested in. So just go ahead and advance that. So Torch Technologies, we're headquartered in Huntsville, Alabama. We're almost 20 years old. We launched in October of 2002. We're a 100% employee-owned company, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with the term ESOP, but that's what that means. Every employee owns stock in the company. We get a distribution of some amount of stock at the end of every year. And so that's a really kind of a cornerstone of our company that's very unique, that allows the employees to participate in the profits of the company. It creates a very dynamic environment where employees work really hard. And it shows up in our growth. I'll talk about that a little more in a minute, but we're a primarily DoD engineering services and solutions company. A little over $500 million in revenue in 2020, with a ceiling in our contract values of $2 billion. So think about that as the size of our fishbowl. That's we think we're going to be a $1 billion company in about 3 or 4 years. So high growth company. We have 8 corporate offices and 11 field sites, and we're a non-traditional defense contractor. I know that term is not from you're probably not familiar with that kind of that nomenclature, but what that means is we're able to bid on very fast moving contracts that support our growth rate. Yeah, go ahead and go to the next slide. So here's where we're located across the United States and abroad. We're about 1,200 employees, and that's the concentration of where they're located across the United States. And those 2 graphs at the bottom right there are that employee growth rate and revenue rate over the past 10 years. So about 30-35% a year, which is a very strong growth rate. Next slide is our cross section of employees. We're a STEM company. We do engineering services and solutions, and so just call your attention there to the software and computer engineers being 27% of our company. So that I'm sure that that's important to somebody like you and your team. All right, next slide. There's a lot of different capabilities we have here at Torch. Initially, just call your attention to the bottom left. We started out as a modeling and simulation and software development company. That's our core base. But as we grew, we found the need to be a complete end-to-end solutions company that spreads the gamut of weapon system development, from start to finish. We still are heavily in modeling and simulation and software development, but we cover the gamut of any weapon system development. And then call your attention down under software development. You see the spatial computing and our advanced biz lab. And so I manage our advanced biz lab. That's where in the next couple of slides, we're going to talk about that a lot. But you guys, the work that you're doing and gaming development and real-time developing content in real-time environments. That's exactly what we do, except we just don't do it with games. We build, very sophisticated weapon systems and synthetic environments and allow soldiers to operate them in a real-time environment. All right, so next slide. So this kind of gets into the details of what we do, day to day, week to week, month to month. And so in short, we're developing content to deploy on these platforms, gaming PCs, virtual reality, augmented reality, and mobile devices. And so that manifests itself in different kinds of products for our customers. One that we do a lot of is trainers. And as you look at these under products, you look at these trainers that span across here, they range in maturity. The highest maturities to the left and less mature as you move across the page. But you can see who our customers are and what platforms we deploy on and kind of the status of the maturity of those devices. And so this first one, the THAAD skills trainer, is our most mature. And it's I don't know if any of you've heard of a THAAD weapon system, but it's a very sophisticated missile defense system that's deployed. You can load them up on C-17s and deploy them anywhere in the world. There's several that are deployed and currently operating right now across the globe. And so just to give you an indication of the sophistication level, they're about $2 billion a copy. And so it takes about 100 soldiers to operate and maintain them, all the time. So maintaining them and training on them and understanding how they work is very important. So there's 65, we have 65 of those deployed kind of across the globe. We train soldiers initially in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and then they get deployed, but they train on our platform, before they leave. And then after they get there, we have those systems at the deployed sites for them to maintain their capability. An air defense skills trainer is the next one, and it kind of grew out of our initial trainer. There's an organization here in Huntsville that manage about a dozen different weapon systems, and so they liked our THAAD skills trainer so much that we're building one of those for all of their weapon systems. So it's that work just started about a month ago, so we're real excited about that. That third item you see there is Symbana. So this is something we've never done before. It's a commercial product we're building that's for the medical industry. And so obviously the medical industry is really advancing the use of virtual reality, augmented reality, and training in this fashion. I'm sure you probably noticed that you don't have to look very hard to know that's going on a lot. And so we're collaborating with a local anesthesiologist, and we're actually deploying our first systems next month to a couple of hospitals, and it's a full VR training device. And so there's a link up there on top. So we could, if we have time, we might come back to it. But you want to play it? You want to try to play it? Go ahead. All right, so yeah, we won't play the other one. There's another link to the THAAD skills trainer. It's a lot longer. It's about a 5-minute video, and so I'll just leave that. You can guys look at that at your leisure, maybe after the meeting. But it just gives you a little taste of the kind of things we do. You see that lunar lander there? We think we're about to kick off an effort with NASA and Blue Origin and Lockheed Martin are a national team that's one of the prime contractors for bidding on Artemis. If you've heard of Artemis, it's taking a man and a woman to the moon by 2024. So what you see there is their lunar lander. And so we're collaborating with them about to build a a virtual reality training device to be able to land that lunar lander, from a VR headset for training. What we found from that there's just an enormous number of use cases for this technology. What I just went through is some of the trainers that we're building, but there's also just other kinds of visualization uses that is very powerful that we're finding use for. That first one there, you see it says optical warhead lethality sensor suite. So one of the products we build here at Torch is a sensor suite. It's several high-speed cameras, like 10,000 frames a second, that allow us to take a warhead and visualize or capture when it explodes the fragments and the different size fragments and the speeds and the trajectories. And so we capture this. There's literally tens of thousands of these fragments. So we capture them and then process that data and then use VR to allow us to characterize, to view that rich metadata, after a test event to characterize that the warhead perform as designed. And so there's a lot of use cases like that where in the engineering world where viewing data on a 2D screen is not so interesting, but if you can put it in 3D space and overlay metadata and very interesting information on it, then it becomes very useful for our customers. And then that next one, rapid airfield assessment system, that's a sensor suite or an algorithm we're supporting to help provide assets for machine learning algorithms. Future vertical lift. That's an interesting project that we're actually collaborating with Auburn System Engineering, Industrial Engineering Department on. And we're embedding some human factors and ergonomics. It's called a duet tool that exists already at Auburn, and we're integrating that into a real-time environment to help us evaluate risk associated with upper extremities when you perform maintenance on these helicopters. So pretty interesting. And then we're doing a lot of video production, kind of like the video we just showed you. As we develop these tools and provide them to our customers, we're developing videos to help promote those in our, with other customers as well. Okay, any questions about any of this? Been talking a lot. Nothing? Okay, next.
I have a couple questions.
Shoot.
So for all this, all these different suites and stuff, are you doing the sound design for it in-house, or are you guys outsourcing that, or do you have like positions for it?
We do that in-house, and I will tell you that sound is obviously a key component to immersiveness. I mean, it's important to us. I think when you see, like that Simbana video, or when you look at our THAAD skills trainer, you'll see we pay lots of attention to the visuals, and I would say that we're not so great on the sound. We do our best. It becomes a resource kind of constraint sometimes, and then it's a time constraint. But if you like in Simbana, there's the sounds associated with an operating room are very important to be immersive. Like that anesthesia machine's it's got a heart monitor and it's got a heartbeat just like you would expect in in an operating environment. So we in our lab, and I'm about to tell you a little bit more about our lab and the people that are in it. But we do have one guy that is sound, our sound expert, subject matter expert, that helps us, make sure we get the sounds as close as we can. But to your point, it's very important. Right now, I don't think we're looking for a sound position, but we have several customers that are in the pipeline, and I can see that as being a possibility. I'm going to give you a link a little bit later to where job positions are posted, and so you can look through those, after the meeting's over. Okay, next slide. So how do we do this work? So our advanced biz lab, it's about 40, we're a little bit over 40 people. And, in order for us to operate day to day, it's, we're key parts of our infrastructure are obviously the people, the tools we use, the facilities, where we locate our people, and then there's a process and workflow. And so from a people perspective, we have 3 Scrum teams. You see the names, they have names for each team: Dream Team, DeLorean, and Empire. And so each team has a product owner, a Scrum Master, a game designer, several game developers, 3D art resources, quality and test. And then they're supported by, functional support. And so they have a very strict cadence that, they follow, and in executing with the tools that we have put in place. I'm sure, you guys, I know, I listened last week, you have tools you use. Any gaming lab, and that's what we are. We have all the tools and the people and the process and workflow that any gaming lab in the country would have, except we just don't make games. And so you can see there the tools, 3D art tools. We use Unreal and Unity both. We are primarily Unreal Engine, but there's some things that we do that requires Unity, but we prefer Unreal Engine. We just got a Epic grant for Symvana about a month ago on Unreal Engine. So we're pretty happy about that. And then there's those other tools you see there are configuration control and collaboration tools that we use. And I won't go into the process and workflow, but it's a very strict cadence that we follow. We run in 3-week sprints. As our content is developed, it's got to be, whether it's design or development, it goes, after it's finished, it goes through peer review and subject matter expert review, qual review, and then a product owner final sign off. And so I guess after listening to you guys last week, and if I was going to leave you with maybe a couple of nuggets of advice that I would pay really close attention to where you guys are right now, is this slide right here, this cadence and understanding organization and process is very important. And I would encourage you. I think you guys are, you collaborate well together, you complement each other, but the more you can learn right now about Agile, Scrum, if those are terms you're not familiar with, I really encourage you to get familiar with them and learn as much about that as you possibly can. Because when you get out in the industry, anybody that's doing this seriously, they have got to have this cadence set up in order to generate work and content and make schedules and make money. And so, whatever books you can find on Agile, Scrum, just can't encourage you enough. I have unbelievably talented people working for me and at a great company. But the thing that I am most proud of in the last few months and years is our ability and our dedication to putting this process in place and sticking to it. And my personal observation across the industry is a lot of people do this, but there's a lot of organizations that don't pay attention to this organizational the part of this that makes them successful. And so the more you learn about that, the more you'll be able to help whoever it is you go to work for. All right, last slide, and I think I went over my 15 minutes. I apologize for that. There's a here's our website. If you want to learn more about our company, and I haven't done it justice today. Torch is a wonderful place to work. There are other great companies in Huntsville that are doing similar kinds of work to this and across the country that are not in the gaming world, but similar. But there's several job openings listed, on our website. There's the link to it. And then if you're interested in an intern position, there's the generic link to the intern position for next summer. The bad news on the interns is we are full already. So keep us in mind. I'm sorry about that. We've been working frantically for the last few weeks, and so we don't have any positions right now for this summer, but the following summer we should have. That's all I have. I'm happy to entertain any questions, or if you want to. I didn't leave my email on here, but I'm happy to, if you want to reach out to me directly, Connor's got my email. So I plan on being at Auburn a lot over the next, going forward. As a company, we already recruit heavily at Auburn for other positions across, for a lot of STEM positions. And so we are dedicated to have more of a presence at Auburn. And so I look forward to, maybe when things break up, meeting some of you. And I think we're willing to sponsor some game jams and be more involved with you if you're willing to do that. We can judge game jams. We can provide, good ideas, good topics, maybe for some research projects or projects that you're working on. We can be a source of that. So I'll shut up because I know I went over, but I'm here, happy to answer any questions and mentor or do anything I can to help you guys. I'm really excited about what you're doing, and so with that, I'm out.
I've just sent a whole bunch of links for all the resources that he has highlighted, including his email. I'm glad you mentioned the game jam stuff, because we could definitely use a sponsor for our upcoming Southern summer game jam.
So we've done a few game jams here. And so, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I could see us doing maybe some game jams together, right? Where maybe y'all team up with some of our developers. And I mean, there's a lot of possibilities that I think we could pursue, but, and I'll leave that to you. You guys think about that too. But I just think there's a lot of opportunities for us to help each other, and you guys to learn a little bit about industry and how it works.
All right, that sounds pretty
Can
good.
I ask a quick question?
Talking. What were you saying, Christian?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure.
Do you find, what are some examples of some roles that maybe this club has, interfaces with that you have a hard time like finding or hiring for? Like, I noticed you guys have a big emphasis on visual fidelity, and my compliments to your 3D art team. Do you have like a technical artist? Is there a dedicated rigger?
There is. We actually have the chart that I just showed you, the one with the 3 scrum teams, is actually out of date just a little bit. We actually have up until about 2 months ago, we had the art team, and we had the art members embedded in each scrum team. And so I don't know if you're familiar with the term Kanban, but we recently transitioned all the art team to a Kanban team by themselves. And so I have a lead art developer. And so I have a six or seven, I can't remember, total number of artists, graphics artists with, I have a lead. And so Kanban is kind of it's a high efficiency process creating art and a workflow to, generate, 3D art for our designers and developers. And so it's a very, there's strict cadence associated with it. User stories get developed, and those user stories are broken down into, based on complexity, to, how long they take to do, and then they're assigned, and 3 weeks go by, and then we have a sprint review meeting where we get in the room and review all that artwork, right? And there's some standards that we've developed, and are published. So when a new artist comes in, they are exposed to what those standards are, so that you don't have 6 artists building things and it all shows up and looks different. It's got to look like one artist that performed it all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that answered my question. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Got around 30 minutes left in the meeting, and I've got a whole lot of content and a whole lot of workshopness to cover. So I'm going to jump straight into it. And this is just a rough outline of the workshop. This is a workshop on the fast-paced construction of board games, essentially. And I am by no means a board game designer, but I did find a couple of resources that have really shown different examples of board game design and how it works. And probably the best one I found is this first link here, which is essentially a not that I had pulled up. Anyways, it's a massive list of all these different resources that are either videos or articles on just how to get started with designing a game, and not just getting started. It takes you through the whole 9 yards of getting a game made, getting it out there, getting it produced. Anything you could really want to learn about board game design is in this list. And so a couple of these I've linked, and I'm basically using as a source for the knowledge here. So if you're around last semester, you might remember a meeting that Charles led called, I believe it was the telephone workshop, where he gave us 2 different ways of starting with games. He gave us starting with the theme and then starting with the mechanic. And then it might have been 2 or 4 teams. They would telephone back and forth, giving each other themes and mechanics until you eventually had a full game. So with this meeting, we're not exploring starting with theme or mechanics. We are going to be starting with the score and win condition. And there are a couple different reasons for that. And essentially what that means is that as opposed to a mechanic, which is just something that you can do in a game or a rule that happens in the game, the scoring conditions and winning conditions are what leads you to an end state of a game. And so with those either scoring or winning conditions or point systems or stuff like that, the reason you can start with that is that it focuses purely on that end goal state of a game and the gameplay loops that happen from the start to the end. And the main reason for that is being able to just fill in mechanics with an existing frame of a game, and then you can finish it off with a theme, as opposed to starting off with the mechanic or theme already and then determining end game content. So it's this kind of idea of backwards game design, where you can just fill in the spaces between a lot quicker than you can usually with theme mechanics. And then just a reminder from the telephone workshop is that all games can essentially be broken down into 3 parts. You have a starting condition or a starting setup, and then an end goal, and then everything in between which is composed primarily of various rules that the player has to follow. So in like a platformer, that's your player has to follow gravity, and you can only move at a set speed. You use these controls, and there are these enemies that you'll encounter, stuff like that. So then getting into the different win conditions and score stuff in games, they can win by either point scoring or board position. And these might not just be the only two categories. There's probably other stuff out there. But this is just a generalized category of this stuff. So with the point scoring stuff, you can either do it by captures. An example I gave there is Mankala, where you capture the other player's marbles and then deposit them in your little bucket. You win point scoring with a game like Tetris, or I guess Tetris 99 for a multiplayer example, where you create different patterns on the I guess the grid to clear out line by line. And the last main thing for point scoring is territory, where if you played like there's an old pen and paper game. I don't remember the name for it, but it's essentially where you and an opponent take turns drawing line by line on a grid. And then the one with the most boxes or the biggest boxes wins. That's kind of what territory means. So the other main category there is win by board position. And this is a more common one. You'll see there are a whole lot more subcategories here. You've got the standard where you have multiple pieces and your opponent has multiple pieces, and you win by either eliminating all of the opponents or by forcing a stalemate, which is chess and checkers. And then another example is that you have maybe one piece. So you're playing like Game of Life, or a couple of the examples here, Corridor, Hearthstone. So with Corridor, I gotta talk about Corridor real quick, because Corridor is an interesting game, and I highly recommend people check it out. It's extremely simple. What it is you and an opponent both have one piece. You take turns moving your player and then placing down walls. And the goal is to get from one side to the other, while at the same time blocking your opponent. And you essentially make these little mazes with like a set of 6 walls. It's just so well designed, and it's really cool. But the win position there is crossing a threshold, the back end of the board. And then another example of board position winning is the elimination of the opponent piece. So Hearthstone, where you're making attacks on the enemy's card to essentially to bring it down the end. On top of that, you've got goals where you have to get all your pieces across the threshold. So like I think Sorry might be an example of this. Another one is Chinese checkers. As well as unifying all your pieces. I don't remember what this one meant. This was from this article here. Not that article. Is it? No. I'll find the right article for that. And there's also the thing where nobody owns the pieces. You're just using the resources. And that kind of gets into this third thing I wanted to talk about, is that the resources in the game kind of dictate the rules and win conditions that you'll play by. So a couple of different things are, you've got shared resources, which is what I was just talking about, where you have like, I don't know, Settlers of Catan might be an example of this. You've also got direct attacks like Hearthstone. Deduction for the more social games out there. Player elimination, which is a pretty standard one. Time limit, which can be pretty fun to implement within games, because it adds a lot of tension just automatically. And then the last one is goal achieving, where you're trying to achieve some specific goal before the opponent. And this is taken straight from this article, which is pretty good at explaining what these are if you want to get more detail. So let me share this thing with everyone real quick, because everyone gets a page. go. And once you're in, you can just claim a page with put your name somewhere, and I'm going to go ahead and grab this one because I am doing this at the same time as you. I will, quick disclaimer, I have not play tested this meeting with any of the other officers, so we'll see how this goes. So the very first step is to grab your win condition, essentially. And I gave a couple example ones up at the top. However, you're also free to figure out your own, because that is definitely not an exhaustive list of every single one. There are many, many more different ways you can win a game. So you can go ahead and do that. And I'll kind of talk about the decisions I make at the same time as doing this, so that hopefully gives you guys enough time to get your stuff. I think the one I'm going to go with is the player with the most captured pieces wins. And then my example is probably going to be lacking a lot of detail compared to yours, because I'm trying to talk and explain things at the same time. My thinking with this is that, how about instead of most captured pieces, I go with all captured pieces, because that then centers the design on something to where we have to exponentially, or where a player has to exponentially grab pieces in order to win. It's kind of like the snowball design. So in the second step, hopefully you guys have gotten your win score condition, is how do players achieve that state? What gameplay loops must happen to have a successful strategy there? So what essentially that means is kind of what are the basic loops of what your game will look like. So the player with all captured pieces wins. So for that might be players take turns collecting resources from a central pile. Or I guess in this case, we can have it be cards. And this takes it back to the shared resources system. So players take turns collecting cards from a central pile. Each card has, let's say it has, we can go with the more basic system of like health and attack. This will be a very simple example. Each card has health and attack, which directly influences the actions it can take. I'm trying to think of how these cards can be used to essentially have a captured piece system. So maybe we can have captured pieces outside the cards. Maybe they can be the cards themselves after you collect all the cards from the pile. I'm liking that. So we'll have the pile be pretty small. So you're kind of taking turns getting these cards one by one until the pile is completely exhausted. And then once you do that, this game's not going to be very well designed. I can already see how it's just going to essentially be a whoever gets the better cards at the draw wins. So one way we could change that up is by introducing randomness. So each card, and this is something that the board game Risk does, is that instead of just having its battles be decided by who has the better troops, it introduces a bit of randomness to it. So for example, so for here, we could do, instead of health and attack, we could have the standard health, but the attack is, instead of a certain number, you have a number of 6-sided die that you would roll. So that way you essentially get, and the way we can refine the design here is that instead of collecting cards from a central pile, we can just cut out the early stuff and then shuffle out the do something like that. Just kind of shuffle them out automatically instead of passing them out one by one. So we've got that. We've got our cards. I believe that will be our loop, basically. Well, actually, the loop here would be players take turns playing card against card. I don't really have time to talk about the specifics, but what I was thinking of there is that you play them both face down at the start so that no one knows what the power of the card is before they get flipped over. Mechanics, where the rules that players must follow to reach their end state. Now this is where the rules kind of come into play. So I guess I could write here that cards must be, or must not be shown to opponents until I feel like that makes sense. Trying to think of any other possible rules there. How about player with the most recent birthday goes first? And then lastly, you kind of get to decide an overarching theme behind the mechanics. You don't have to if you want to keep working on your mechanics and the gameplay loop. I'll say for my theme, we've got a marshmallow army. Multiple colored marshmallow armies are facing off on the battlefield. Cool. So we've got 10 minutes left. You can do a little bit of stuff on Tabletopia for those that checked it out before the meeting. You're able to sign in using Steam, so you don't have to sign up for anything, which is nice. Pick a title. Does anyone have any title names? If you're not too focused on your own page. I guess we'll go with Marshmallow. Marsh Fair. I don't know. So then when bringing your game to Tabletopia, it is important to remember that they do provide a bunch of different pre-made assets. So I'll go ahead and go through the process of creating the game. Marsh Battles, sure. You really don't have to fill in too much information here. We'll say it counts as a war game, classical war game. And essentially what you can do is just kind of take this section of the document and insert it as the rules if you want to be quick and dirty. I think we don't really need to do much else right now. So then all you really have to do to get into the game or get into making your game is that you make the page and then you create the setup. And then if you've made your rules defined well enough, you can actually like hand this off to other people and have them start playtesting it. It does have a winner determination thing here. So for mine, that would be victory and defeat. We will make it the default selection. Players, we'll go from 1 to 4. So now the awesome thing about Tabletopia is that it's essentially, what's it called on Steam? The tabletop game simulator. Tabletop simulator, maybe? It's essentially that, but in a browser and free. So it lets you kind of build your own setup for a board game. Just like that. And it does provide default stuff. So if we go home and featured, there's a whole different set of different assets we can use that are common with games. So players shuffle out a deck of cards. Each card has a health and attack die. So just to keep things very simple. And the whole point of this workshop is that by the end of it, hopefully if you like your design well enough, you can refine it and actually make a, like release it on Tabletopia or make it a physical thing. And have it just be like a portfolio piece, or maybe you want to get into board games. I don't know. But hopefully this little workshop is kind of practical. So for my example, it'd essentially just be a deck of cards. You shuffle them out to each player, and then they determine the rest of the play of the game. I am doing this on my laptop opposed to my PC, so it's running a little bit slow. But they do have a nice card system here. Let's see. The general idea is that you can take each card and then kind of there we go. So the battles would look like this, where you do that and then you flip over the card and then roll your dice, and then whoever got the or whoever beat the hit points there gets that card removed, and then the other one continues to fight on. So that is that game real quick. How's everyone else doing? I've been rushing through this. I will check out the other pages if you guys don't mind. Alex is working on Super Chess. This is looking pretty interesting, Brendan. You want to talk about what you're thinking for this?
I was kind of thinking along the lines of like Risk or whatever, and then I was like, and then the whole idea of collecting all the pieces sounded cool. So then I'm envisioning like Clue kind of, where you go from room to collect pieces, but you grab pieces to build a bomb, and then you either take them to your base, or you're just like, I think they kind of like a Monopoly style, like you collect the piece. But if people go to your base, they can steal an item and stuff like that. And your goal is just to blow everybody else up.
That sounds really cool.
I'm sorry,
That
I
sounds
was
like a game
thinking
I
real
play.
quick. Super Chess.
Super Chess.
Super Chess is a game that I made a long time ago at Boy Scout camp. It involves 9 chess boards and 4 players. Each piece, I've never actually actualized Super Chess. We've only played like ad hoc versions of it. Each piece, it's first think standard rules of chess, right? But then each piece also has a secondary move set that you can use. And once you reach a certain point into the board, you can actually move the pieces in any direction so long as they still follow that pieces, like pawns can only move in a cross shape, right? Unless they're attacking, they can move diagonally. And that lets you have more players. So one person on each side of the board. And then it's a lot of fun. Play testing back then was pretty good, but there's a lot of issues that I never really worked out with it that I could workshop here.
That sounds crazy.
Dude, it's a lot of fun. We would play it for like hours at Boy Scout camp. It started off as like a stupid joke, but then we actually made it.
There's a whole lot that you can do with chess. I remember there was
yeah.
a thing trending a while back. This one designer just had like a whole lot of variations on chess. Yeah. And this thread just goes on and on about a whole lot of different variations on chess.
Yo, can you put that in the chat? I want to read that.
Yeah. I actually put a lot of these links in the Discord. So I'll go ahead and grab that link again. Got that. I'll just put this one in there. All right. We are running out of time a little bit. Are there any other board games that people are working on that they want to talk about? So we've got one from Garrett. That looks like all the ones that we've got here. But you guys are free to keep working on this. I might set up another meeting to continue talking about Tabletopia and then have like a bit of a playtest session where we kind of bring all these games together and playtest them as a group. If you guys are interested. But with that, I believe the meeting is over. Thank you guys for coming. Make sure you check out the projects page on the website. Make sure you sign up for game jams, all that jazz, pay dues. And I'll see you next week. We have a, big news. We have a developer interview next week from the guys of bit.trip. It's the two main developers. Let me get their names real quick. Of the original game. And that is Mike Roosh and Alex Noose. And that will be next week on Monday. But thank you guys for coming out. I'll catch you then.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Do you know of like any other resources for learning like actual like game design, like similar to this, like
Resources for like not board game design?
Yeah, I guess. Just I guess more of this content, like whether it be for board games or just like game design as in video games.
I've seen like resource repository pages like this before.
Okay.
I'm glad you mentioned that because we are currently working on something similar to this for the website.
Okay.
I don't have any links right now for
Yeah.
what those would be, but they're definitely out there.
Okay, cool.
Any other questions? No.
I have one about the mechanics part. So since I have a rule set for each piece, should that go under the mechanics part?
Yeah, I named that mechanics when it really should have been named rules.
Okay, I'll put them in there then.
All right. Good night, people.
All right. See you guys.